All right, so you want to know how Mahindra Lifespace developers did in Q3 2025? Well, we've got their investor presentation and a whole stack of financial reports right here, ready to dive in.
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting time for them. They're really looking at some major growth in the next few years. So we're going to take a good look at what that means, for anyone who might be thinking about investing or just keeping an eye on the Indian real estate market in general.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, we know that Mahindra Lifespace Developers, or MLDL, is part of that big Mahindra group. It's a huge global company, but we're going to stay focused on MLDL today.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
So MLDL, it's their story. Well, they've been around in India building homes and developing properties for almost 30 years now. We're talking over 50 projects,
Yeah.
thousands of satisfied homeowners,
Yeah.
and they've got these partnerships with some real heavy hitters like Actis and HDFC Capital.
And they're not just about apartments, right? They've got that whole industrial and commercial division. That's the IC and IC, if you're following along at home.
Right. Think like world cities, those massive industrial parks. They've got a client list with over 250 companies from all over the world. Pretty clear they're thinking big.
And what's really cool is their commitment to sustainability. They've got 3 net zero projects that they've already finished up first in the Indian real estate industry for that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Now, if we look at the Indian real estate market itself, it's a super dynamic scene right now.
Yeah.
One of the biggest things driving it is urbanization. More and more people are moving to the cities every day.
Right. More people moving to the city means they need places to live and work. That's where MLDL comes in.
Exactly. But it's not just about how many people there are. Incomes are going up too, so people are looking for better quality housing. Then on top of that, you've got the government reforms. They're bringing more transparency and organization to the whole sector. It's creating this a perfect environment for a company like MLDL to really take off.
Okay, so we've got good market conditions, but what about MLDL's own goals? What are they looking to do in terms of growth?
Okay, get this. They want to grow 5 times bigger over the next 5 years. That means they're aiming for something like 8,000 to 10,000 crore INR in sales every year. And it's not just some vague hope either. We're talking a targeted gross development value. That's the total value of all their projects combined. A massive 45,000 crore INR. Hold on a second. That gross development value thing, can we break that down a bit? Sure. It's basically the total revenue a real estate developer expects to get from a project. So when we say 45,000 crore INR GDV, we're talking about a huge amount of potential revenue in the pipeline.
Okay, that makes sense. So those are some seriously ambitious goals, but have they actually shown they can pull off that kind of growth?
They have. Check out their track record. Their GDV has gone through the roof from 778 crore INR in 2020 to a whopping 4,400 crore INR in 2024. Basically, they've grown their project pipeline more than 5 times bigger in just 4 years.
That's incredible. So they're not just talking the talk, they're walking the walk.
Yeah, and their sales numbers have followed a similar trend. They went from 778 crore INR to 2,698 crore INR over the same period. Even their free cash flow, that's the money they have left over after covering their costs, has grown like crazy.
All right, so all signs point to upward momentum. But let's take a closer look at their most recent performance. What were some of the highlights from Q3 2025 and the first 9 months of the year for their residential business?
Okay, so in Q3, their sales volume hit 0.45 million square feet.
Right.
And the big chunk of that 0.33 million square feet was what's called RERA carpet area.
RERA carpet area. I'm not a real estate expert. What does that mean exactly?
It's a really important distinction. Basically, the RERA carpet area is the usable area within an apartment. So it's not about inflated numbers, it's about the actual space you get to live in. And over the first 9 months of the fiscal year 2025, their sales volume hit 2.15 million square feet, 1.62 million square feet. That was REA carpet area.
Okay, so we're talking about real livable space, not just numbers on a page. What about their collections? You know the money coming in.
They brought in 366 crore INR in Q3 and a total of 1,365 crore INR over the 9 months.
So how about projects that they're finishing up? Are they actually delivering the homes they've promised?
They're definitely getting those keys into people's hands. They handed over 113 units in Q3 and a total of 550 units in those first 9 months of FY25.
All right, so they're selling, building, and delivering. That's good to hear. Now let's talk about their current residential portfolio and what they're planning for the future. Where are they focusing their efforts?
Now, this is where things get really interesting. They've added a massive 15,000 crore INR in GDV just in FY25. That's all from strategic land acquisitions. A huge sign of confidence in their future.
15,000 crore. Wow, those are some serious numbers. What can you tell me about these acquisitions? Where are they buying land? What kind of projects are we talking about?
Okay, so the biggest one, the most recent one, is a land parcel in Pandit, Mumbai. That one alone is estimated to have a GDV of around 12,000 crore INR. It's a real game changer. They also picked up a great spot near the airport in Bengaluru GDV, around the 1,000 crore INR for that one.
Wait a minute. That Pandup acquisition, 12,000 crore? That's almost as much as their entire GDV was just a few years ago.
It is. It really shows how ambitious they are and how much confidence they have in the Mumbai market. They're not just about huge developments, though. They've also secured their third society redevelopment project in Mumbai. This one's in Borivali West, estimated GDV of 1,800 crore INR.
Society redevelopment project. Fill me in on that one. What's that all about?
It's a trend that's catching on in Mumbai. MLDL partners with these existing housing societies to redevelop older buildings into modern high-rises. The people living there get brand new apartments, and MLDL gets to work in these prime locations within the city. It's a win-win.
Ah, I see. So they're meeting that demand for modern housing and also addressing the issue of all that aging infrastructure in Mumbai. Seems like a pretty smart move.
It is. It shows they're adaptable and willing to try different things to grow.
Okay, so we got these big acquisitions. But what about their current projects and what they're planning beyond those?
Well, if you don't count those recent acquisitions, their ongoing projects, future phases, and new projects have a combined potential GDV of 45,000 crore INR, a huge pipeline of potential revenue.
Of course, those are just estimates, but it does give us a sense of the scale of their operation.
What's really exciting is the future cash flow they're looking at from all these projects. They're estimating 8,693 crore INR from sales that are done and sales they're expecting. Even after they cover construction costs, they're still looking at a healthy 6,283 crore INR in future cash flow.
That's a lot of money to fuel their growth plans, so it's safe to say their residential business is doing really well. But we can't forget about that IC&IC business. Remember you said it's a hidden gem.
Yeah, for sure. And that's where we're going to go next.
Okay, sounds good. Let's switch gears and see what MLDL's IC&IC segment is all about. Okay, so we've talked about how well MLDL is doing with the residential projects. Now let's get into this IC&IC business. You said it's kind of a hidden gem. What makes it so special?
Well, they're not just building houses. They're building whole ecosystems. Think about it. Their IC&IC segment is all about these big industrial parks, these integrated cities. They're bringing in businesses, creating these whole communities.
Okay, that's pretty cool. Can you give us some examples? What kind of projects are we talking about here?
Their flagship projects are what they call Mahindra World City, or MWC for short. They've got them in Jaipur and Chennai. And these aren't just your typical industrial parks. We're talking carefully planned developments. They blend industrial areas, commercial spaces, even residential spaces. They've got everything from infrastructure that's ready to go to all these sustainable solutions.
So it's like they're building these mini cities, catering to businesses and the people who work there. That's ambitious. What's the scale of these IC&IC operations? How big are we talking?
It's huge. They've got a total footprint of 1,634 acres across all their locations. Just to give you an idea, MWC Jaipur, that's the one in Jaipur, has 1,917 acres that they can lease out. And they've already leased over 1,100 acres. That's a lot of space.
Yeah, that is impressive. It sounds like they're creating a lot of value, not just for businesses, but for the whole community.
You got it. And they're doing it by partnering up with other groups. They work with government organizations like RICO and Thai DCO, even international groups like the IFC. It shows they're serious about making these developments sustainable and well integrated.
Partnerships are key, especially in a market like India. Now, how about the money side of their IC&IC business? How are they doing with leasing and making money?
They're moving right along. In Q3 of this fiscal year, FY25, they leased out 12.4 acres. That brought in 45.7 crore INR. For the first 9 months of FY25, they leased a total of 47.3 acres, and that brought in 208.9 crore INR.
Okay, so they're attracting businesses and bringing in the money. Any big deals or partnerships we should know about?
One that comes to mind is their partnership with Sumitomo Corporation. They're a big Japanese company. Last November, Sumitomo invested 225 crore INR to expand Origins Chennai. That's one of MLDL's industrial clusters. It shows they can attract big investors from other countries, and they're focused on growing what they already have.
That's a huge investment. It shows people believe in what they're doing. It sounds like their IC&IC business is in a great position to keep growing. But I think it's time we look at MLDL's overall financial performance. Let's look at the numbers for Q3 and the first 9 months of FY25.
All right, let's break it down. Starting with residential sales, they brought in 334 crore INR in Q3 of FY25. Now, that's a little lower than the 443 crore INR they got in the same period last year.
So a little bit of a dip in Q3. Anything specific going on there?
It's probably just the normal ups and downs of the real estate market. But if you look at the whole 9-month period, They're actually ahead of last year. They hit 1,749 crore INR in sales, compared to 12,243 crore INR in the same period of FY24.
So a little slow in Q3, but overall they're still moving up. What about their collections? Are they turning those sales into actual cash?
Definitely. In Q3 of FY25, they collected 366 crore INR, a bit lower than the 386 crore INR from Q3 of FY24. But for the 9-month period, they're up to 1,365 crore INR, way higher than the 973 crore INR they collected this time last year.
That's what we like to see. It means their sales are actually turning into cash flow. Remember we talked about those big GDV numbers from their land acquisitions. How does that show up in the financials?
Oh, it's definitely there. Their GDV in Q3 of FY25 was a massive 12,000 crore INR, compared to 1,400 crore INR the same time last year. And for the 9 months, their GDV is up to 14,050 crore INR. That's a big jump from the 2,360 crore INR they had in the same period of FY24.
Those are some serious increases. Those land acquisitions are really boosting their growth. But growing that fast usually means taking on more debt. How are they managing their debt levels?
Great question. Their net debt to equity ratio is at 0.5 in Q3 of FY25, higher than the 0.16 they had last year at the same time.
So they've got more debt. Is that something to worry about?
It's definitely worth keeping an eye on. The increased debt probably comes from those recent acquisitions.
Yeah.
Usually need a lot of money up front for those. Their cost of debt is also a little higher now, 8.9% in Q3 of FY25 compared to 8.5% last year. But overall, their financial situation looks pretty solid.
Okay, so more debt, but it seems manageable for now. Let's talk about the people running this company. What can you tell us about MLDL's leadership team and their vision for the future?
MLDL's got a really experienced leadership team. Their managing director and CEO, Amit Kumar Sinha, he's got an MBA from Wharton, and he used to work at Bain & Company. He brings a lot of knowledge from both the corporate world and the consulting world.
Sounds like they've got the right person leading the way. What are their main goals for the future?
Their priorities are pretty clear. They want to hit that ambitious target of 8,000 to 10,000 crore INR in sales every year, and they want to do it profitably. They're also focused on getting the most out of their IC and IC segment, making sure customers have a great experience, and finding new ways to create value through different initiatives.
Sounds like a solid plan. They're not just going for growth.
Yeah.
They're focused on profit, customer satisfaction, and building something that lasts.
Exactly. And that brings us to the important part. What does all this mean for you, our listener? What are the key takeaways from MLDL's performance and what they're trying to do?
So we've talked about a lot here. MLDL's impressive performance in both residential and IC&IC, their big growth plans, and their strong leadership.
It really seems like they're on a roll right now, taking advantage of everything that's happening in the Indian real estate market.
And it's not just about building houses or industrial parks. They're really building communities. They're shaping how people are going to live in cities in India.
And doing it sustainably, which is a big deal. Their commitment to those net zero projects and their focus on these integrated ecosystems, it's pretty forward thinking.
Yeah, it's great to see how they're combining profitability with sustainability and community development.
Absolutely. Now, it's important to remember that every market, even the ones that look really good, has its risks and its opportunities. That's where things get interesting for you, our listener. What do you think about the Indian real estate market?
Yeah, what stands out to you? What risks and opportunities do you see? What makes you curious?
Think about what we've talked about: urbanization, rise in incomes, government reforms. How do you see those things playing out over time?
What gets you excited? What questions do you have? We've given you this deep dive into MLDL, but this is just the beginning of your exploration.
Don't forget, staying informed is how you make smart decisions. The more you understand about a market, the better you'll be able to handle the tough stuff and grab those opportunities.
Hopefully this deep dive has made you curious and given you a better understanding of MLDL and the whole Indian real estate market. Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep learning.
And who knows, maybe this is the start of a whole new interest for you. That's all from us for now, but keep those questions coming. We'll see you on our next deep dive.